The Clinton mandate for change was actually a smokescreen, the first of many being used to dispute an agenda far removed from the promises and empty rhetoric he used to gain the presidency. But who was the new president really, and what is his agenda? Bill Clinton proudly proclaims himself a Southern Baptist, while rigidly opposing virtually every plank in the Southern Baptist platform. His political statements provide more than a hint that he is a firm adherent to the New Age theology. He is pro-abortion, although, in his words,
"Hear me now. I am not pro-abortion, I am pro-choice strongly."
His support for homosexuality and militant gay and lesbian organizations run counter to the clear teachings of the Bible that he so prominently displays on Sundays. And Clinton is not above using scriptures to promote his man-centered theology. His acceptance speech at the Democratic National Convention contained this memorable statement.
As the scripture says, our eyes have not yet seen, nor our ears heard, nor our minds imagined what we can build.
The scripture actually says, "The things which God hath prepared for them that love him." The New Age belief structure is incompatible with theology that makes man dependent upon God. Faith in an eternal God makes globalism unnecessary, as well as incompatible with God's revealed will. Bill Clinton's new covenant is a counterfeit of God's covenant. Clinton speaks often of channeling creative energy or centering himself on an issue, concepts undeniably linked to New Age theology. Clinton is an abashed globalist, a man who is firmly behind the New World Order, who has been since long before Gorbachev and Bush made the term a household word. Carol Quigley, a Georgetown University professor, in his book Tragedy and Hope, said the individual's freedom of choice will be controlled within very narrow alternatives by the fact that he will be numbered from birth and followed as a number through his educational training, his required military or other service, his health and medical requirements, his tax contributions, and his final retirement and death benefits. Does the idea of limited freedom of choice, of people being numbered so as to control their ability to buy or sell, bring chills to the Southern Baptist Bill Clinton? Did he enter politics to prevent such a thing from happening?
As a teenager, I heard John Kennedy's summons to citizenship. And then, as a student at Georgetown, I heard that call clarified by a professor named Carol Quigley.
Clinton enrolled his daughter in a private school, a decision that angered many who were forced to send their children to public schools. Clinton deflected criticism by saying it was a religious decision. Chelsea Clinton attends Sidwell, a Society of Friends or Quaker school in Washington. Quakers see their deity as a divine presence, the God within or inward light. How does that stack up against Bill Clinton's celebrated Southern Baptist roots? According to Stephen Carey, a Quaker in the publications These Roots and Witness of Quakerism, if being a Christian means commitments to a range of theological doctrines that are central to much Christian thought, doctrines such as the virgin birth, original sin, and the atonement, then a large number of Friends, or Quakers, would say that they are not Christian. Quakers believe that Jesus was another enlightened teacher, like Buddha, a New Age doctor. It is safe to assume that that doctrine is part of the curriculum being taught to the president's daughter. If Clinton unknowingly enrolled his daughter in a school so diametrically opposed to his own Christian beliefs, we can only hope that he is a better world leader than he is a father.
There's no doubt we live in remarkably confusing times, and the mass media plays such a big role in this. You think of our political climate in the world today, and it's not just one politician, it is many politicians who take a certain label, a certain identification, because their pollsters have said that is the way to go, but when you look at what their real beliefs are, you find out they don't line up. You have politicians in Canada who claim to be conservatives that are as liberal as anyone I've ever seen, and on the other hand, you have liberals who claim to be liberals, but they're more conservative than the conservatives on the other side. They take a label because of political advantage, but then who they really are, you have to look at the day-to-day policies. So we do live in confusing times, and I think I want to summarize on that note that where the confusion is coming from in our world today. So many things sound so very good, and therein is the heart of the deception of the Antichrist system in the last days. It's going to slide in right under the surface. It's going to sound like the best thing on earth. For example, this movement towards a new world order is for the cause of peace. What could be more noble than the need of peace in our world today? And I think we should all stand firmly for it, that it is time for the wars in the world to come to an end, so we should be for peace. But on the other hand, let's not confuse what the Bible describes peace as versus the peace of this world. They're two separate things. Remember what Jesus said? He said, "My peace I give unto you. Not as the world gives, give I unto you." The only peace that this world can give is the cessation of hostilities between armies. That's the only peace we can do, is have a series of truces around the world. But that the peace that the Bible speaks of is a peace in our heart between us and God. And at the same time, environmentalism, of course, it's a very good thing. It's a very important thing. But let's not confuse that with the fact that as Christians, while we're to protect the environment of this earth, we're looking for a new heavens and a new earth. Our eternal hope is not of this world. And that, once again, is the message of the Bible. The gospel of Antichrist is going to sound so very good. It is going to sound so very noble. But the key dividing line is the promise of hope here on this earth, the saving of this planet, or is the promise of the gospel the salvation of the soul? And if you keep those two things very clearly in mind, as confusing and intertwined as these things become, the true gospel will always remain true in that God is concerned for the salvation of the sinner. I'd like to close reading Hebrews chapter 11. This is speaking of these great members of the faith in times past, from the 14th verse, saying, "For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had the opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is a heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city." That is the hope of the gospel.